Do you want to study a large amount of info while on the go? Then this might be a useful technique using AI. Before I begin, if you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. This video is an extension to the video Learn Like Batman, where I go over some tried and true techniques on learning. However, this one is more like my hypothesis. As such, I don't know its effectiveness for everyone. So do it at your own risk. But basically, it's turning notes into audio files to listen to using AI. What you want to do is compile your notes, whether they're from the professor or the ones you've personally taken, and format it into sections that cover each chapter based off of what is going to be on the tests as mentioned by said professor. Then you take these notes and run them through an AI software to make the audio file. I personally used 11 Labs, which is free, but I did purchase their lowest tier subscription for the use of the voice AI cloning tool. I'm sure there's free options, I just don't know enough about them to show you which ones are good. Now the reason for the AI voice cloning tool is to make the notes be spoken in a more aesthetically pleasing manner, which I believe will help you listen to it more than if it was a robot speaking it out. You can sample pretty much any voice, where the samples have a max limit of I believe 10 megabytes and about 25 samples that you can put in. So you need to download something like Audacity and use an MP3 converter to turn YouTube videos into the proper size. I would also recommend using quality audio to make sure the final version sounds good. I personally chose the voice of Christopher Judge, who plays Kratos in the God of War. He has a really cool deep voice, and because it's for a game, the voice is recorded in a professional setting. And more of an anecdote, which is how I associate the voice to the character who's like a badass, but also a father figure to his son Atreus. So it's almost like he's giving you advice, even though it's just AI. Now with that said, you can choose whatever voice you want, but try and stick to the guidelines of having it professionally recorded, either from a game or movie, and having some connection to you where you're more likely to listen than not. Now the lowest tier subscription is $5 a month, and with it comes a 30 or 33,000 character limit, meaning that you have to condense your notes into more broad strokes, especially if there's a lot to cover.
This is where you shall die.
You could circumvent this to some degree just by buying the next subscription level, though it's like $22 a month, or you could start another account with a different card and phone number, which I do believe they ask.
This is where you shall die, filled with pain and suffering.
And get 66,000 characters each month. It also has a 5,000 character limit per generation, so you may have to split it up into multiple sections per chapter.
Batman here.
I also noticed that each generation, even if you don't download it, removes from the 33,000 character limit, so it's important for you to edit your notes before putting it into the AI. Make sure it's properly punctuated as well, as this helps the software differentiate from sentences. I made a mistake and it turned into a run-on sentence.
This is where you shall die, filled with pain and suffering. Cupid chicken sandwich torch desat.
Once you have all the necessary files downloaded, if you had broken a single chapter into multiple parts, you may want to fuse them using Audacity, unless it's too long, like 30 or 40 minutes plus per chapter. Then properly name the files, including the ones that you may not be able to fuse, as like chapter 1, and then in parentheses, 1 of 3 files. And then add this to your Google Drive. This way you can access this from your computer and your phone. There may be a size limit for Google Drive, but I'm unsure of what the amount is. But if that happens to you, just split the audio once again. Now some things to consider include not having enough data to use it at all times with service, so you may have to put it offline, which I do believe requires gigabytes. And if you don't have enough space on your phone, what you have to do is back up your photos and videos to your computer or Google Drive, and delete them off your phone temporarily. That should free up some space, and then download as many files as you can and make it offline, and then rotate it every so often. And besides the realistic effect that it has, I do believe it also has a mental effect by breaking it up into small pieces. As there's a saying on how do you eat an elephant, the only way to eat an elephant is a bite at a time. Seeing the 1 or 2 hour tag of the audio file might make it daunting for people to get into, but if there's small bits of like 5 or 6 minutes or even 10 minutes, it can be easier because it's kind of like watching a YouTube video. As for actually using this, well, you can use it during your formal study session, which I equate to sitting down, taking notes, and trying to actively learn, and having an auditory summary of each chapter may assist you in making connections in your head in relation to the material at hand. The other is to be used outside of your study session, preferably when you're not doing any activity that is mentally or physically taxing. So for example, if you're commuting on a bus or train, you can pop your headphones in and listen, or when you're going for a walk, getting your 10,000 steps in. The idea for this is that the repetitive exposure of the information, which is easier to do in long spans than handwriting notes or doing homework, should hypothetically help you to reinforce the info. It's somewhat similar to how processing fluency, which is the ease of understanding info, though processing fluency in itself is usually associated with the illusory truth effect, which is where you hear something enough times that you start to believe it to be true. This of course is much different than that, but I hypothesize that if you did this for multiple weeks, listening for multiple hours, the repetitive exposure should help you become more familiar with the info at hand. As for exactly how many times per day or how many hours, it can vary depending on how easily you get bored, and if the voice itself becomes annoying, you can switch it each month when the character limit resets, and even make new notes to keep it fresh. By the way, I don't think this will be as effective for learning foreign languages, as the pronunciation may be messed up. I haven't actually tried it, but it seems like a logical conclusion to make, though you could test it if you want. I think it'll also be difficult for learning formulas, with this specifically unless you already know the formula and can picture it in your mind and want to just reinforce it. And in general, this would not be a replacement for formal study session, but a way to complement them. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and support the channel by hitting the join button for $2.99 a month.